Welcome to the Business Owners Council, Legal Issues from Growth to Exit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Business Owners Council, Legal Issues from Growth to Exit. I'm Sean O'Connor, and in each episode we sit down with Kevin Brick, founder of Brick Business Law and trusted advisor to Florida companies, to talk through the strategies business owners need to grow, protect, and maximize the value of their businesses. Today, we're talking about how business leaders should choose the right lawyer. Kevin, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
Let's get into this. Most business owners choose lawyers through referrals or quick searches. Is that a good approach from your point of view?
It can be a good approach, but a lot of times those types of referrals can be very context specific. So if you used a lawyer or if somebody used a lawyer for a real estate closing or a personal matter, that might not necessarily be a good referral for a complex business dispute. Companies that do a really good job hiring an attorney, they think about it like they're hiring a key executive. They look for an industry match, um, complexity and depth to be able to understand their issues, and then alignment with their long term goals. And then that becomes a good match. Like that can become one of the most important relationships that a business has.
Oh, that makes sense. I love that idea of treating it like you're hiring, an executive at the company itself. And you hinted at it, but why does choosing the right lawyer matter so much for a growing company? I'm guessing there's obviously you're going to grow a relationship with that attorney too.
Well, that's the hope. I mean, and the legal professional that you hire can be very important in terms of how their decisions and their counsel relates to risk, to capital of the business, the reputation, even the enterprise value of the business itself. And so if you have a lawyer who's maybe the wrong match, that can slow down business decisions, it can create conflict and create risks. And then alternatively, having the right lawyer can help leaders move faster, move with confidence. Having that right fit can protect the company as well as sometimes the leadership team personally. And that is especially true when you're getting to the stage of a company where it has employees, it's got investors, partners, because there's a lot more complexity there. And so the value of the inputs from that good fit attorney makes a big difference at that point.
You mentioned earlier, this attorney X may be, you know, super experienced in a particular industry, or business, but not in your own, which can be an issue. Are there other common mistakes that business owners make when selecting legal counsel that you see out there?
Yeah, I see the same ones over and over again. So one is they choose just based purely on price.
Oh.
Number two, they hire a generalist instead of a specialist in an area that requires specialization, or it's very good to have somebody who's specialized. Number three, they might hire somebody who is not very business minded. So an attorney who's focusing on, theory and things that don't really give practical business outcomes that businesses want. Number four, I would say, is hiring the super aggressive lawyer who, wants to make everything into a fight when they sometimes need to use some different tools in the tool belt, like solving things strategically or diplomatically. And then number five, I think, is just hiring lawyers um, without a real understanding of who in the firm will handle the work. So they may have an expectation that they'll be working with that partner that they talk to, but maybe a lot is allocated to associates or junior staff, or it's not done in an appropriate way. And so I think those are maybe I would say the biggest categories of mistakes I see.
Yeah, it's a good list. You mentioned, uh, the importance of, or to know when specialization would matter. Are there qualities that executives should look for when selecting a law firm, other than, as you said, specialization in a particular field?
Yeah, one of the things I think that really is important is having this business mindset so that lawyers who are hired by businesses understand and they're aligned with what does business success mean for that business. So there's a variety of different things that could be defined as success or goals. For instance, in litigation, it could be about, you know, um, winning at all costs, or it could be about minimizing costs or solving it very quickly. So that sort of business mindset makes a difference. It's a relevant experience with industries or companies of the same size. Clear communication skills are really important. The advice it's got to be communicated to business owners in a way that's understandable and it's actionable, that they know what to do when they're advised. Strategic thinking is another big one. And I would say, depending on the size of the business, really the depth of the team that the lawyer or the law firm has to handle litigation. So, for instance, or the business issues. So, for instance, at our firm, we do litigation. We also do employment law. We do corporate work and transactions. So, a lot of those things become relevant as a business grows. And then also, I'd say responsiveness. Having an attorney or a law firm that responds quickly when there's urgent matters.
Yeah, I was wondering about the how important, sort of matching the size, if there was a correlation between the size of the business versus the size of the firm. But as you said, obviously, as a business grows, things potentially become more complex. So you'd want a deeper bench on the law firm side. It sounds like. Let's talk a little brass tacks. I'm imagining that the selection, the interview process can be, I don't know if intimidating is the right word, but there's a certain, I don't know, you don't necessarily, you haven't done it before. You probably haven't interviewed for law firms very often, or most people haven't. I'm curious, how to handle that. What questions should they ask? How do you, how do you invite someone to the interview even?
I mean, typically, when you're talking about businesses to lawyers and that hiring dynamic, generally it's an interview type of a situation, like you said, but like a consultation. And
Mhm.
so it does make sense for the business owner who's hiring a lawyer to come in with questions and a criteria that makes sense for their type of company. So some basic things you'd want to ask are, what type of businesses do you typically represent? What types of matters do you typically handle? How do you approach disputes? Are you looking to litigate to the max, or are you looking for, right fitting certain solutions? I think it's important for businesses to know the preferred method of communication, how often they want updates or accessibility or responsiveness. I think how they approach their costs, who will work on the matter. All of these types of things lead to deeper conversations. But essentially, what you're doing is you're aligning on and understanding expectations at the outset. And that really makes for a successful relationship, understanding how well you'll work together, and then making sure that the person who you're hiring actually is a good fit for the types of matters that you're going to have.
Would speaking with other existing clients be appropriate? Do people ask for that? Do you offer that? Is that, in terms of, you know, you get it. I mean, the question.
Well, typically, I mean, sometimes a client who's doing their due diligence might ask for some referrals, and the attorney ethically, yeah, they got to go ask their client base, is it okay if this person contacts you and I disclose that I'm representing you? But generally, that's okay, and that's a good measure of due diligence is asking around about others, and then of course there a lot of times there's reviews and things that are out there that somebody could access pretty quickly.
Hmm. Yeah. Just go to Yelp.
Go to Yelp. Yeah, sometimes it's not the best source, but
Yeah.
you can get some information out of there.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot of resources out there online other than Yelp. We have business owners listening today, right? And maybe they're already in a relationship with a firm, but there's always room for improvement. What advice would you give to listeners, business owners, about how to improve their legal relationships? Or, I mean, I'm also curious how to end it. If you know what I mean, how would you graciously break up with a firm? But maybe that's not as common as I think.
Yeah, well, let's kind of start out with the idea of like what should it look like when it's going well, right? So as a business owner, your lawyer, as your business grows, your lawyer should be part of the leadership team making decisions. They should have touch points with multiple people, and in that way, they should be able to touch major decisions, signing contracts, hiring, disputes, expansion, strategic decisions, and that relationship should look like one that is strategically proactive instead of reactive to problems as they come up. I mean,
Yeah.
you sometimes are blindsided even with the best planning, but really your legal advisor should be part of that leadership structure, and they should help align your legal strategy with your business strategy. So over time, the lawyer starts to understand, how the company functions, who the players are, what the issues are, and that sort of hand in glove relationship is what it should look like. Okay, so now to kind of get to the second part of what you're talking about is, um, what does it look like when it goes wrong? I think, if a business owner is questioning whether or not they should call their lawyer because they're concerned about the cost of every conversation, or they're having to identify every issue that comes up, that's a problem that doesn't really lead to good outcomes. Um, there should be conversations about the business model, the growth goals, um, anticipating things that are coming up and making sure the lawyer has experience in those areas. So you're looking for making sure it's not just working now, but it's going to work in the long term. And then so, when things are going wrong, those conversations aren't happening. It's a very transactional. And I think that's a time, and maybe before that time, businesses or attorneys should be looking at what relationships are working or serving a purpose or delivering a value, and then assessing those about how, should we continue on in this, or should we be looking for another, somebody that's a better fit.
Yeah, it makes me think too that if you're engaged in a professional relationship and you're treating your attorney as sort of a de facto member of the executive team, everybody's very well aware that either, hey, this is working or it's not, right? Because you're in, I don't want to say constant dialogue, but I imagine the scenario where I send a contract over to my attorney and be like, hey, I'm thinking about, we're acquiring this company, review this contract. And you're like, wait a minute, I should know, right, as the attorney, that you were thinking about acquiring a company.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's happened to many business attorneys, is they're surprised by what's happening with their clients' businesses. And not that that indicates that something is wrong or something is broken, but probably there should have been more conversations along the path to get there, that maybe could have delivered value. And so, yeah, those are some indications that maybe improvements could be made in the relationship.
I love that. I love that because it's such, I don't want to call my attorney, it's too expensive, but like the extra value you get from your attorney understanding the context in which you're doing business, so that when I send a purchase agreement or contract over to my attorney, they have, they can actually give me very valuable advice beyond just, paragraph 2 is slanted in their favor too much, whatever the tactical thing would be.
That's exactly right. That you're talking about a tactical execution issue where they were not involved in any of the strategic discussion, and so they should be a part of a business that has an accountant and insurance advisor, an attorney, and all those things. Those roles should be interacting in a way to help the business strategically. Not They shouldn't be kind of on the receiving end of the information without having been part of the strategic side of determining what is a good decision or not overall for the business.
I love it. I love it. And we're pushing up against time, and that seems like a pretty good place to leave it. It was good to see you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of the Business Owners Council, Legal Issues from Growth to Exit. If you're a Florida business leader evaluating legal counsel or thinking more strategically about your company's legal relationships, you can learn more about Kevin Brick and his team at Brick Business Law by visiting brickbusinesslaw.com. I'm Sean O'Connor. And hey, if you found this episode helpful, or if you know someone that would benefit from the information, share a link, subscribe, leave a review. Thanks very much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.